Hi, my name is Lisa, and I'm feeling drawn to connect today and talk about suffering and how do we be with it and how is it helpful in our lives. So, at this time, I know so many are feeling inextricable loss and fear and such hopelessness and vulnerability. And I felt to talk and give a way through that experience and feel like you can find yourself and an ally in the midst of what you're experiencing. So, to begin, it's understandable with such a crisis and circumstances that you may feel paralyzed in fear or completely overwhelmed or just not be able to think clearly at all or just consumed in unbearable emotion. So, how do you begin in that experience? How do you help yourself? And I think that's a understandable question and a much needed one. So, in my own personal experience with difficult, unbearable pain that I've experienced in my life, physical pain, as well as emotional hurt and fear that's been paralyzing and pain emotionally. The first step that I've always known, which is not always easy because instinctually we want to run away or avoid our pain, whether physical pain or emotional. So the first step is that willingness to come toward it, that willingness to face it. And I know that right alongside that willingness to face it and be with it is this experience of powerlessness, of feeling like you're not able to be with it, that the physical pain or the emotional pain or the intensity of fear has all the power. And that is understandable to feel that fear of your own pain, your own suffering, your own emotional distress. So I want to empathize with that. So you'll experience that. You'll experience feeling hopeless to the enormity of what you're experiencing. And it takes moment to moment willingness to be with your suffering, your loss, your fear. And as you choose to turn toward it rather than run away, you'll feel each instance rather than your thoughts about it. Each instant becoming present with what is difficult, of leaning into it and opening your heart to it. is what will open you, is what will open your heart to such compassion and love that can actually bear what you're experiencing. Doesn't mean it will go away. Doesn't always mean you're going to feel better or the pain is going to go away and you'll no longer have it. But what it will cultivate in you is a tenderness in your heart, a care towards yourself, towards your suffering, rather than a numbness towards yourself and your experience. It will create an internal moistness that you're open, you're available to your experience. And I know that this is an act of bravery and it's not something that you do once and you're capable of doing. In my experience, as I have had long-term body pain for 20 years, consistently throughout the day, with no diagnosis, no means of help. So it's required of me to become intimate with the pain, to learn a capacity over time of how to actually be with pain. So it is an ability that's built over time, over repetition, of learning how to lean into and toward discomfort and let your heart open to embrace what it is you're experiencing. And in my experience, it does provide relief. In an instance, in a moment, it may not mean the emotional pain or the physical pain is gone altogether, but it does provide relief. So I want us to go on a journey together. I want you to feel something inside yourself that you're feeling overwhelmed by, paralyzed, incapacitated. Maybe it's physical pain. Maybe it's your body's health right now, that you're suffering with the virus and feeling debilitated. Maybe you're paralyzed in fear around your loss of income, of not having employment, of not being able to pay rent. Of how do you feed yourself? So, of course, there's practical steps to take within each one of these situations. And what I'm here to help you with is how to be with yourself in them, how to show up emotionally, how to support yourself. How to be that standing tree that you can be present and available for what is debilitating you, rather than becoming numb or denying or running away from it or distracting yourself. In my experience, we never gain true resources and true power if we turn away from our experience. It's what makes internally lead into gold, our experience, our difficulty into our strengths, our capacities. So feel in. Let's do this together so you're not alone. Feel in to whatever is debilitating, difficult for you in this moment. And choose to be with it. Acknowledge it. Say hello to it. Bring your heart to your suffering. Tend to it with an open heart. Bring your listening to your fear, to your pain. Embracing your pain with open heart. Listening. Showing up for your fears around money, your loss of loved ones, your fear with your own health, your difficulty embracing the physical pain in your body. Give your listening ear, your open heart to your experience. And notice what happens when you tend to your difficulty in this way. When you hear your pain, rather than be consumed and run by it. When you love your fear, rather than be paralyzed or run away from it. When you bring yourself and your heart towards your suffering, in my experience, the intensity of the physical pain is heard, and transformation begins in the moment with the energy. The fear can be heard, or the pain or the loss. So it's no longer overwhelming. It's rather listened to, and an alchemy begins to take place energetically, where what felt overpowering is all of a sudden manageable. That you can be with your distress. You can receive your fear, your loss, your pain. And in receiving it, a shift, a change happens internally. It's allowing our heart to widen, to open to the totality of our experience. And be available for ourselves, our fear, our pain, our loss. It's what allows our heart to become tender. And maybe you take this journey step by step, inch by inch, so you slowly, with each moment, feel a little bit more like, okay, I can do this. I can be here with this grief, with this intense fear around my health and the virus, around my financial situation, around the physical pain in my body. In just a little bit, you begin to feel your capacity in a moment. That the only option isn't being bewildered, being lost in your fear, but rather to feel it, to show up for it, to listen to it. It's an act of consoling ourselves, of loving ourselves. No matter if the circumstances are able to change. Oftentimes, as I've experienced with physical pain, it's not that for me, my pain was able to go away. It was more what I needed to do was gain the capacity, the resourcefulness in myself to be able to be with the pain and not feel debilitated. So it's not to say your financial situation is going to go away or the state of your body's health is going to magically become different. But it's bringing comfort to your difficulty, your distress. It's being there. It's choosing to not zone out to our experience, but to bring the greatest act of love and compassion to the heart of what you're experiencing, and growing in your ability to be there for yourself in the good times and in the frightening and difficult times. We have this capacity in ourselves. Our heart is this big. And in my experience, it takes inch by inch to know this, to experience this, moment to moment, to show up, to know it's possible. And what you glean from it, in my experience, is an internal comfort. That you're comforting yourself. Because in intense times like these, that is what's needed, is to show up for ourselves, to comfort ourselves, to feel soothed by listening to our pain, by being present to our loss, rather than running away from it and distracting ourselves. That's what creates an internal sense of ease in the midst of what you're experiencing, is to show up and be available for it. In suffering, we grow in our bravery. In our willingness to be present for ourselves. And you will find precious jewels inside yourself if you choose to show up for yourself in this way. That's been my experience. It's been my experience how beautiful lotuses, to use that imagery and analogy, have come from the mud of my pain, my suffering. How I've grown in compassion and tenderness, and the ability to be caring and sensitive as well to others, because I'm giving that to myself. So I hope this has helped you, or at least shown you there is another way to be with yourself, given you possibility to be willing to try to be intimate with what you're going through, to be available to your difficulty. Thank you for your time, and I wish you well from deep in my heart. And may you continually find your internal capacities and feel the strength of them and your resources. Thank you.